A room full of wealthy strangers thought they could humble me with a piece of paper, but they had no idea who was actually sitting across from them. The silent tension in that dining room hit me like a cold wave right as my future son-in-law slid a thick white envelope toward my plate. Everyone at the table went completely still, waiting to see how a broke old man in a worn winter coat would react to being put in his place. My name is Arthur Vance, and if you saw me driving my 30-year-old pickup truck around town, you would probably assume I survived on a meager Social Security check. I never bothered correcting people who made those assumptions because flashy clothes and fancy cars never mattered to me. What those people did not know was that I spent 40 years serving in the military, eventually retiring as a 4-star general. Between my military pension, smart investments, and a fully paid-off home, I had more money than I could ever spend. My late wife Clara always said that if you truly want to test someone's character, you should let them believe you have nothing to offer. She passed away 6 years ago after a long battle with cancer, but her quiet wisdom stayed with me every single day. So when my daughter Chloe begged me to spend Christmas dinner with her fiancé and his wealthy parents, I deliberately wore my scuffed boots and my oldest jacket. I wanted to see what kind of family my daughter was marrying into when they thought her father was just a penniless veteran. From the moment I stepped inside their massive home, Chloe's fiancé Brandon treated me with a subtle, polite condescension. He made backhanded comments about my rusty truck, laughed at my simple clothes, and openly wondered why older folks failed to plan properly for retirement. His mother offered me pitying looks throughout dinner, treating me like a charity case who rarely enjoyed a warm meal. I simply ate my food and smiled, letting them paint whatever picture made them feel superior, because my wife taught me that arrogance always exposes itself eventually. When dessert arrived, Brandon's father brought out the legal documents and demanded we settle matters before the upcoming wedding. I quietly opened the envelope to find a cold prenuptial agreement designed to protect their family fortune from my daughter. The contract explicitly listed my daughter's financial value as minimal, assuming she brought nothing to the union because her father had nothing to give. Brandon grinned with supreme confidence, convinced he had completely backed me into a corner, while Chloe sat beside him fighting back tears of utter humiliation. Instead of getting angry or arguing, I simply placed the papers back into the envelope and kept my composure. I reached into my bag to hand out my Christmas gift to Chloe, which was a hand-carved wooden memory box I built in my garage. Brandon's father ran his fingers over the seamless woodwork, recognizing the rare craftsmanship and skill required to build.
Such a piece. For a brief second, a flicker of genuine respect crossed his face, but Brandon quickly dismissed it and showed off his new $3,000 luxury wristwatch instead. Brandon casually pointed at my faded military watch, telling me that Chloe should buy me an upgrade once they settled their finances. I held my wrist steady and explained that my wife gave me this simple watch 30 years ago, and no amount of money could ever replace its worth. Brandon laughed off my response and began lecturing me on financial investments, explaining how hard it must be for retired folks to survive on fixed incomes. I watched him talk with complete calmness, knowing his arrogance was about to collapse around him in a matter of seconds. Before I could say another word, Brandon's father suddenly stood up and firmly told his son to stop talking immediately. The entire room froze as the older man walked over to his bookshelf and pulled out an old military academy yearbook from his study. He flipped through the pages until he found my official portrait, showing me in full dress uniform decorated with 4 stars and decades of distinguished service medals. Brandon's father looked at me with profound respect, revealing to the entire room that I was a high-ranking general who once commanded thousands of troops. The arrogant smile completely drained from Brandon's face as he stared at the photograph and then back at my worn-out clothes. His mother dropped her coffee cup onto the tray in utter shock, realizing they had spent the entire evening looking down on a decorated war hero. The quiet embarrassment in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife, as Brandon stammered out an apology for everything he had said. All his talk about wealth and success instantly vanished the moment he realized who was actually sitting at his table. I stood up from the table, adjusted my old jacket, and told Brandon that protecting family assets was important, but true character could never be bought. I reminded him that money comes and goes, but the way you treat people who have less than you reveals who you truly are. I kissed my daughter on the cheek, thanked his parents for the meal, and walked out to my old pickup truck with my head held high. Living simply taught me that real strength does not need to shout, and quiet dignity will always outshine arrogance.